The
Peterson?
stranger.
Andrew Strauss.
Andrew Lewis.
Alex
Lewis.
Peters. Alex.
There's a lot
Putchel.
of very basic white men names in this
They
race.
all look like the little
It's
play
very
school figures
hard.
that you like.
Yes.
Just like
I just see them
the
like
same curve in their hair.
they're like names that I
Need
see.
spicy names.
and
Yeah,
shit.
these
Mhm.
motherfuckers get keychains at the store.
Yeah.
We didn't get keychains.
I
They
ain't
get
get no
keychains.
keychains. Matthew might have.
Oh yeah. I was kicking
Rebecca
up.
definitely got a
I had-
fucking
I had
keychain.
my choice of keychain or license plate.
Must
everywhere I
be
went.
nice.
Wow.
Matt.
Welcome back to the activist class.
Thank you for coming back.
I'm here with my fellow Twitter activists. What do you guys
Yes.
think about Twitter activists? Somebody called me that the other day, and I was like,
That's a diss.
I've been
Okay.
on the street.
Whose streets?
It's absolutely a
Our
contradiction.
streets.
Like
There it is.
activism implies some sort of
Action.
action
Yeah.
and like being
Shout
at
out
all
to context
active
clues.
And like, I don't know. Eli Sanders called me the Twitterati the other day on KUOW.
What is a Twitterati?
I don't know.
Like Illuminati.
He was in the
Like
middle of
paparazzi?
misquoting me, and then like
Yeah.
going
So
on
what
a
is the
long-
science and what happened?
signs?
Science.
I said
and
signs.
science.
I said
What is-
signs.
Can you explain Science Gate real quick? Because I was confused.
The whole trailer fiasco happened, and then the dude from the Seattle Times called me and was like, "Do you regret posting it?" And I was like, "No." Like all the reasonable signs like pointed to
Posting what? The trailer?
the picture of the trailer and being like, "This is clearly like Dory and Ari Munson or Ari Hoffman's like doing." But
Oh.
then the Seattle Times misquoted me, and I said all the reasonable signs pointed to it being Ari and Dory's doing. They quoted me as saying all the reasonable science. And so,
Oh
like,
my God.
Do you regret anything?
just that family had their like life
Yeah.
upended, for sure. But I wouldn't have like done anything differently. Given the,
I
like, facts.
I understand what now. Okay, I get it now. So okay, I get it. I genuinely was asking because I to be honest, I jumped in the trailer thing a little late, so I was kind of confused. I started
the
reading.
most
It was low key very
confusing-
confusing.
Dumbest fucking story on the planet.
But it's so Seattle.
absolutely
Yeah.
And like I fully admit to throwing my fucking idiocy in the fucking ring.
Okay,
to,
so
like,
it was in front of Lisa's house,
yes,
and
and it
Yeah,
was
let's get the
2
facts.
hours.
Let's get the facts.
2 hours after Dory published a story that Ari had this idea to buy trailers or RVs at auction, and then go and tow them in front of the city council's house. So this trailer shows up. It has brand new plates, brand new tabs. It was like very clearly just bought.
That's also a
the
rap song.
trailer.
The trailer, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a fresh trailer.
It was an old trailer filled with trash, but the plates and the tabs were new. So all
Okay.
reasonable signs pointed to it have been bought at
so
auction by somebody who had listened to Dory's show earlier in the day, or had listened or had like read his
Yeah,
shit.
what are the fucking odds?
It's mostly that. Yeah. What are the
It's
odds?
literally a series of unfortunate events.
It absolutely is.
Anybody?
But also,
Okay, what did you say though? You said, "Hey, look at."
I said something like, "Holy shit!" Like Ari went and
So you broke
did it.
that.
Sure.
Well, sure. Somebody sent you the picture.
Yeah.
You broke the tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
I figured it was just somebody that listened to Dory's show was like, I'm doing it, like I'm gonna be
Yeah.
a hero. But no, then the next day I was at the playground with my kids at like 6:30, and I got a call from the guy from the Seattle Times who had like broke the story because like he reads my tweets and decided to break this story, which is like
He didn't check it?
I mean, he like checked it, but like he like kind of checked it, and then he called Dory for comment, and then Dory was like, "Holy shit, it's going down," and so Dory actually was like the first real media outlet that wasn't like a Twitter thing that put it out there, followed shortly by the Seattle Times publishing a story being like, now it's a thing.
So Dory got the scoop because he was being questioned of his own participation in the supposed plant of the RV in front of a council member's house, and then he jumped on his own platform to rush the story before the Times could do their own due diligence because they are a newspaper and you are an advocate activist on Twitter.
Yes.
And so Dory broke the premature story that the Times was trying to take some time to do more info on.
Punny.
Yes.
And it just started a domino effect.
Yes. And then Cairo showed up with a reporter who
Oh, yeah.
decided that
Oh,
she
God.
was going to break into the trailer. I don't know if he broke in. Either way, she
I know
went
which
in.
reporter that is, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
Neither
She
do
went-
I.
She went in. She filmed the shit. She put it on the internet.
Oh, she's the one that started touching all that shit. She went in the
She went
trailer.
in with like gloves and was like picking shit up and was like,
How did she get in? Was it locked?
it's unclear. I don't know. Either way, she broke
Fuck.
several laws. Deleted just like 5 days worth of tweets. Was just like, boop. Just
Holy
like gone.
shit!
And was like, I
Did
haven't
you take
tweeted since the 3rd. Like-
screenshots? Did you take
Did-
screenshots?
yeah,
Oh,
did-
yeah.
Did
And, like,
she take any accountability?
no, I think I'm sure Cairo Legal was like,
Yeah.
if this blows over,
Yeah, exactly.
you maybe still have a job here, but like, this is probably not going to blow over, and it's probably not like.
So she lost her job.
No, she didn't. But like, if the owner of the trailer decides to sue or like press criminal charges, like, she's gonna lose her job, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you can't-
super.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
fucked
That's
up.
really
and then
bad.
reported
Yeah.
back to Dory like, this is exactly the kind of trailer you would leave if you were like sending a message. And then like Dory's supporters showed up, and one of them like tagged
Yeah.
Dory for governor like on the side of this trailer. And then I guess what happened
This is
at,
so
like,
wild.
It's fucking crazy.
Is this
We
a
can totally talk
simulation?
about
Is someone
something else.
testing
It's
us?
crazy. But at 5 o'clock the next day, like after this person had tagged the shit, like 4 hours later, this like young couple comes back to their trailer, and they come back and they're like,
Because it's all circumstantial.
It
And
is.
they-
Yeah,
Like,
that's why
what's
it's.
wild.
yeah.
It's all just fucking
and
circumstantial.
it's so like in a bubble that like
yeah.
like
Yeah.
those folks had
No.
like not even just like I didn't know this was happening, but like if they had explained the story, they would have been like, I don't know who any of those people are, or like why any of this matters.
Literally a
Like-
plot from like Parks and Rec.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's the whole
Fucking
episode
way.
right
Wait,
there.
wait.
Who has the rights to the story?
First of all,
right,
Yeah.
the
Next
reporter
one.
did some
Disney.
illegal shit,
for sure.
and the people who tagged the RV tagged someone's house.
And they did it on camera, and then Dory's show tweeted it with the caption, "This is great," or like, "That's great."
Yeah.
Like crazy shit.
So who?
And then the next day they're like, "This is Speck's fault," and I was like, "Bruh, like that's your name on the fucking shit."
Dude, that's insane.
Crazy. And then
Trailergate.
he had her on the show, didn't apologize, laughed at her, and then was like, "I didn't have anything to do with this, but I'm gonna give you a cool $100 from my own personal money clip." And he took out his thing and he threw $100
Threw
at her
it.
and goes, "There's a Hunsky for you." And then she left with her baby and her like husband or boyfriend or whatever partner, and they took a commercial break, and he came back and started talking about how she was irresponsible for having children. It's fucking crazy.
Okay, how
and then
can this
2
not
hours
get
later,
any
they're like,
fucking
"This
worse?
is all Speck's fault." I was like, "You're actual monsters."
they're literally proving your point. Yeah,
And
like
then
every single step of
Reddit
the
was
way.
filled with these conspiracy theories that were like, Speck set this up, like, so that he would look like the
People give you
hero,
so much
and,
credit.
and we would
Which
look like
Reddit?
the Seattle, Washington. Like,
Wow or Seattle?
yes, wow.
Yeah. Are
Yeah.
people still talking about it?
I don't go on Reddit. People just like send me this shit, but there's like a lot
look
of
like a
folks who are
Redditor?
like, Well, fuck, I do. Shit, I've tried so hard.
Yeah, you kind of do, dude.
It's like a moderator. Not just a redditor, a moderator.
But we need you. But we need you on the inside.
There you go.
You need to look
I'm
like
taking
one.
it down. Don't blow my cover.
Holy shit.
But yeah, so they like tell on themselves because they're like, he's doing this to make himself look good and make us look like we're the villains. And I'm like, you're just the villains. Like,
Okay,
I actually look like a fucking dumbass in all this. but
Exactly.
You guys look like the fucking villains.
Assholes.
Okay, but honestly, and I know I sound a little biased, but Ari announced his plan of action.
and announced it over the course of a week. And the first time he did, he was like, I'm a man of my word.
Hype,
Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know I'm
Hype,
going to
hype,
do it.
hype.
I'm being dead ass when I say when I heard Ari announce it.
Yeah.
I know he's a dude full of shit. I believed he was gonna do something, or his
Yeah.
supporters were.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
texted
he
him.
We've
literally
seen
wrote
this
it
shit
out step by
before.
step. He was like, "These are the things I'm gonna
Yes.
do."
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
No,
And
and I texted you too
CC
that night, and I
everybody.
said this sounds like a terroristic threat.
Absolutely.
You remember that, right?
Because he was going to have the 3%ers like
yeah,
walk the
I
grounds
was like,
with.
fuck
yeah.
that.
We're all post 9/11 kids. We know this shit.
Yeah.
Like
the next,
Yeah.
the,
We
the-
know
the
it
next
was-
day, if a trailer shows up in front of a council
No, it
member's
wasn't the
house-
next day. It was 2 hours after, and Dory in his shit like gave a literal like, here's what you do: you buy the shit at auction, you tow it to their house, you like leave it as a billboard, like, and then he was like, if anybody wants to do that, like, I will throw in
How-
a, I'll throw in a cool
I-
Hunsky. Like,
I don't understand, and I get it. You know what? And this is why maybe I can never get a job at a newspaper. But in my opinion, if Ari does all of that preparation, fear mongering bullshit, Dory, Monsoon,
yeah, Munson.
Dory Monsoon goes on his fucking show and lays out how to do it. Then 2 hours later, a trailer shows in front of city council's house. As an activist, I'm putting that shit out there.
Absolutely.
And you know whose job it is? A fucking news reporter,
Absolutely. Yeah.
or I don't know, some fucking detectives.
Literally
abolish police, but
anybody
some
that's
fucking
getting paid.
detectives.
LOL.
Like, go. That's what the fuck. You did not do anything wrong. I'm sorry.
I mean, I was wrong. I like strongly believe I did nothing wrong and I regret nothing and I would do it all again given the facts, but I was wrong. Like, the thing I said was blatantly incorrect.
Fuck Dory Monsoon.
Yeah, 100%.
This is episode 2. We're talking about Seattle City Council elections. This one in particular, we left off, I think, after District 3.
Mm-hmm.
Finished talking about Shama Sawant and her battle against Egan Orion. Talked about Tammy Morales facing the People's Cop Mark Solomon. And talked about Lisa Herbold facing
Phil Tavel.
Full taval.
Phil, 12
it?
businesses down the tubes, Tavel.
Phil. For some reason, I know his whole driving record, Tavel.
LOL.
Or is that
Yeah,
someone
not
else?
a good
That's
driver.
also why I can't run
Just
for
straight up.
office.
So with, let's say, District 1, 2, and 3, there's a somewhat probable chance that it could be Lisa Tammy Shama.
Yes.
And that's 3 generally progressive candidates.
Yep.
Yes.
You combo that with Teresa Mosqueda,
Whoop
Mhm.
whoop.
who is considered a progressive by many,
Mhm.
And also had a baby.
who had a baby.
yeah, congrats.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And Lorena Gonzalez, who I think is a little more moderate than that
Mhm.
at best,
Mm-hmm.
but I think falls under the Lisa Herbold camp of will probably vote more in the people's favor with
Mhm.
more progressive electeds on council.
Yeah.
So that's potentially 5.
Mm-hmm.
Which is all we need.
That's potentially 5. So if
That's
all
fair.
5 get in those seats as we predict,
Mm-hmm.
And those are all women, yeah?
and
With
those are
the-
all women,
Yep.
and they're all except one woman of color. But it's okay because Lisa Herbold has a nose ring. So that's like 5 potentially progressive elected officials. However,
Then we get to the Great White North.
then we get to the north end. And also, like, there are 5,
White
you know,
Walkers.
on paper, there are 5 progressives. that you would think would always vote on the left of issues put in front of them. But we have seen individuals on that council's voting records in the past, and we have been surprised before. And so I think it's safe to say we need more than 5.
That's true.
I mean, we don't have a guaranteed 5 for whatever vote we need, right? We have already 2 that are a little unsure on.
Well, right, and best case scenarios for districts 5, 6, and 7 are on the right of anything we have in the first 5 we named. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Best case scenario for 5 is Deborah Juarez. Best case for District 6 is Dan Strauss. And best case for District 7 is Andrew Lewis. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. And not by much.
Did you say District 4?
I'll get to District 4.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
wild card. That's the wild card. And that's the thing. We need District 4 is the only remaining race that we haven't touched that can really change the
Yeah.
dynamic
Yeah.
of what city council and the city looks like.
Yeah.
Let's just say a scenario where it's Lorena, Teresa, Lisa, Tammy, Shama, Alex Peterson, Dan, Andrew, and Deborah. You have Alex Peterson, who is not a Save Seattle candidate. He's a corporate establishment, like big money, real threat candidate. You know, like Ari Hoffman can get drowned out if he weaseled his way on council, but like Alex next to Andrew, who then is next to Dan, who then is next to Deborah, and then you then Lorena starts getting confused. That's suddenly 5 the other way.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
I feel like that's the same setup we have now, though.
That's true.
Right, and we've seen our wins and losses over the past 4 years.
But we're not factoring in the wild card.
So Alex
And
Pe-
Tammy's a big deal. Tammy
Tammy
over
is a big
Bruce
deal.
is
That's
a
one less
big
Bruce
deal.
Harrell.
Tammy
Yeah.
over Bruce is a big deal. Everything else is kind of the same. Is Alex more on the right than Rob Johnson was?
I feel like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
more bought and paid for than Rob Johnson was, who was still pretty bought and paid for, but like,
He is the ideal prototype.
yeah, And they keep trying to pin that on Egan Orion, I feel like too, but he's just like
They're
too much
trying
of
to
a
force
dumb
it
puppy
so
to like.
hard.
Like,
Like,
he's just like, I
he's
don't
our
know,
guy.
man.
I think Alex Peterson is way worse than Rob Johnson.
Yes.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. Way worse.
And I think that gap,
He's worse for housing, yo.
Yeah.
that gap
We're
is
fucked.
pretty similar to the gap between Tammy and Bruce. All I'm saying is that D4 matters a lot. D4 matters a lot.
So if you were in D4, who would you be voting for?
Oh, easily Sean Scott. But my point is, I don't think that's a secret. I think we're all going for Sean Scott.
Yeah.
We just literally said Alex Peterson is one of the worst candidates we've ever seen. I think what goes down in D4 is gonna determine whether or not we have a future head tax, what it looks like. I think it's gonna determine what happens with the sweeps. And that's the thing, like, if Sean doesn't win, I think we can push progressive policies. But if Sean doesn't win, that's also going to factor in on how progressive these policies look. Does that make sense? Like, it's the difference between a barely passing, hella watered down head tax and a holy shit, we're taxing these motherfuckers. And it's the
Yeah,
real deal.
Exactly.
And he's one person, and other people on the council matters. And I'm not saying like Shama's been doing this work a long time. Teresa's great on issues. Like, that's not my point. My point is that seat is really like Alex is gonna drag that council right as hard.
Yeah,
as he
he's
can.
gonna be constantly talking about the whistleblower words, not whistleblower,
Dog whistle.
the other whistle, accountability, common sense, all these words that just mean like more process, less teeth, all symbolic votes, essentially.
District 4,
So
Sean
now
Scott versus Alex
Max.
Peterson.
Yep.
Interesting story.
was-
I saw on Twitter this morning. This is now Monday the 14th. There was a police forum
Mm-hmm.
hosted by SPOG, the police guild, and I saw a tweet this morning by Brandy Cruz of Q13
Mm-hmm.
giving credit to Sean Scott on showing up and bashing Alex for not.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell me more about what the tweet said?
I actually don't think her tweet mentioned Alex. I think a few of the retweets mentioned Alex. But she was basically just giving credit for the fact that he is explicitly an abolitionist, but was still willing to like show up to this meeting.
Right, she's like, oh, like he stood his ground. He's clearly an abolitionist, doesn't fuck with police, but showed up and fielded the questions, and
Yeah.
I respect that. I think Kelsey Hamlin tweeted out a response Sean had to a question about what would you do if there was a shooter in your district? Would you call the police? And Sean's response was a zinger.
Mm-hmm.
He said something along the line, I'm paraphrasing, that can you clarify who the shooter is? Is it a officer or is it
Mm-hmm.
someone else?
Mhm.
Which on Twitter, at least, because I wasn't there, was responded by a lot of hisses and boos by the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But his attendance was controversial, not only on the right, but also on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Because other campaigners, specifically Tammy Morales and Shama Sawant, decided to boycott.
Mm-hmm.
And I think other people didn't show up. I think we need to check.
Alex did not show up,
Alex did not show up.
but I don't think it was a principled thing. I think it was just he's gotten very used to not showing up, and so probably doesn't even look at his calendar
It's a
anymore.
wild strategy.
Did you agree with it? With him showing up there?
I'm not sure how I sway because it's
Or like not right now. How like when you heard that he was gonna go, were you like, I get that, or were you like, no?
Okay, but before we even get into it, I feel like we can't just be like, it's just a SPOG forum. Because I feel like there's one thing to be said about it just being a SPOG forum, but then for it to be a SPOG forum that's closed doors, invite only, and they go out of their way to invite Speak Out Seattle is a very different situation.
Safe Seattle. But
Save
yeah.
Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that they, if it's a closed setting space
Mhm.
and they went out of their way to fill it with that group, which has been so controversial and has been just saying the most wild shit, that sets up an unsafe space for women of color. And the two people that didn't, show up are women of color. Granted, they did that off of value, but like, Tammy was going to have, excuse me, Tammy was going to have Nikita, debate in her place because it was Yom Kippur. And I think that, like, sure, there is space to, like, have the discourse, and that is necessary, but that's not what that was. And we're not going to kid ourselves and say that that's what that was going to be.
So Tammy was going to debate. If it wasn't.
If it was just a SPOG forum, yeah. I think her campaign was going to participate.
So the problem with that for her, and again, I know I'm asking you, I'm not asking Tammy, is that it was on Yom Kippur,
Mm-hmm.
and
But you can have
Save
someone,
Seattle was invited.
you can have a proxy, like that's fine. Like campaigns have done that before, but it was that specific move where it's like then people started learning more and more. Like, oh, it's not an open forum; it's closed door, and like this group
Right.
is able. They're getting invited to take up those seats. That's a setup, bro.
that's a setup.
agree.
Yeah, I see that
agree.
now.
I agree. It's definitely not a safe environment, and I think it's a very valid point that women of color at the
Not
same.
that they couldn't hang. Like Nikita and Shama can fucking hang. Like
100%, 100%, and that's not taking any strength away from
it's
them.
it's not that. It's that every question posed to them is going to be out of bad faith. Like, it's not to learn anything from them. It's not to have an actual conversation. It's just to be openly aggressive towards them.
When you put, okay, now I'm getting them confused. Speak Out Seattle, Save Seattle. When you
Seattle.
put one of the S's
Yes.
in the mix, then it becomes that discourse.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even just looking. I mean, Sean's zinger was a zinger because it was received that way in the room. But like,
It wouldn't have been a zinger if Shama and Nikita were in the room.
right, and
Exactly.
it's like a legit thing. And like, I mean, I'm sure he meant it tongue in cheek, but like, it's a legit question. The fact that it was
True.
met with such like hysteria, and then he still had to like be like, no, it's actually like a
See,
reasonable
but
thing.
that's the thing, though. It's like I agree with everything that's been said, but at the end of the day, what we are speculating, which we're probably right about, are the type of questions that Shama and Tammy would have gotten are the actual questions that Sean received. Sean didn't get any policy questions. Sean's questions were shaped in a way that was not constructive dialogue.
No, it just gotcha.
And
It was just-
and
yeah.
Exactly.
Sean
It's-
and Sean, out of those three, I just want to point out, is the only black person, a black man at that, in a district where a pregnant black woman was shot and killed by police that
Yeah.
he is charged to represent if elected. And I think that has to matter.
It does.
You know, and I think him deciding to go and participate in the Spock Forum, I disagree with. I would have liked to see more solidarity and a better scheme and plan out of the three progressive candidates.
That
They,
part.
they
It's that part.
it just didn't. There wasn't a lot of alignment, at least publicly. I'm not in those conversations, and I think there needed to have been a better strategy. But also, it was a black man who decided to go to a police forum to talk about police abolition. Like, that's, I don't know. It's hard, you know. But I can't take that away from him.
I don't think we're taking that away from him. I think both can exist, right? Like, all of those things you said, 1,000% true. But if there is an agreement between leftist people of color to boycott a forum, you fucking stand by that shit. If you come from organizing, you know that, like, you hold the line. And it's like, if you're gonna go back on that, you fucking communicate, because then it looks messy.
So that's what it is then, right? It's
The way you go about it. I think that shit matters, because then you end up in situations like, you know, the critique we've had of Shama, where it's like you're burning the left and you're burning the right.
I think Alex is taking his seat for granted. Before this Spock forum, I think Sean had an uphill battle, but it was possible because of how hard and how brilliant he is, and the good people that he has around him. And his staff is comprised of very fiery, young, queer POC. And I respect that.
Right.
Which is very visible.
Right.
Visible.
Right.
It's
And that shit matters. Like, who's on your team fucking matters.
exactly.
Yeah.
But after the Spock forum, I don't know if he lost anybody in D4 by going to the Spock forum, but I think there's a case to be made that he might have gained some people.
I mean, people probably think he's like super brave for doing that and still saying what he said.
I think there's like a very small little pocket of folks too who are like, I really want to be leftist, but like I don't want to come off as like a non-serious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I feel like having him show up there gave them enough of a push to be like, I'm not going to look weird at the dinner parties for saying I voted for, you know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Do you think it's just a matter of exposing an act of resistance to people that wouldn't otherwise see it, right? Because if he doesn't show up,
It's an echo chamber.
yeah, it's an echo chamber, right? So if he doesn't show up, we would know what it means, right? But other people may not. So if he attends, people will know his stance, which we know will not change. But it's just, I think it's like a visibility / a little act of resistance saying, hey, we like, yeah, even though,
Sure.
but it's only hinging on whether or not they had a strong communication of we're not going, right? Because then if it's resistance, it doesn't matter because you just, turn your
You can't
back
go
on.
rogue. You can't go rogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
When shit is in contention, like when lives are at stake, you can't go rogue. And if Sean went rogue and we don't know for sure,
Yeah,
but if
exactly.
Sean went rogue, that is not a good thing, and that's gonna hurt the movement in the long run. But without knowing those things, in D4, was it a good idea for him to go? I'm leaning towards yes, and I think the caveat to that is because of how he did and how it played out. Were there persuadables in that room? I don't know. But
There are on Brandy Cruz's Twitter feed, though.
yeah.
You know?
Interesting.
Or just like, I mean, probably not very persuadable. But I feel like
Brandy
I feel like people that watch local news could be convinced of it. Pretty much anything. Like,
You just you just show them the images enough, and they're like, oh,
Okay, so we're all going for Sean.
We're all going for Sean.
Cool.
yeah, no shit.
okay, D5.
D5, Deborah. And
Final answer.
Ann
Heidi.
Davison Sattler,
oh no, it's the Sattler race.
who's the most like right wing person in any of the races. She's also just like not really a serious candidate. Like, she's got like the one issue, which is like housing homeless in warehouses.
Very antagonistic to homeless people, like to the scary degrees.
Is she the one who said that we should put all the homeless people in the bankrupt Sam's Club?
Yes, that is her.
She's
yes.
Sam's Club.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Yeah,
Can
she
you
said we should
explain
put
that?
2,000
Yeah, this
homeless
is
people
like
in an empty Sam's Club building in the north.
With like minimal staff and like
It's genocidal language,
Yes.
rounding people up.
yeah, it's crazy.
It was
Yeah.
very, very weird. Like, it gave me.
Yeah, it's like
But
that's
it's the
exactly
same
what it
version
is.
Of like that comes out of like at least one person in all of the districts, or just like
clean up the streets versus help.
yeah, and also just like
Yeah.
I drive by an empty building every day. Like, boy, shouldn't this be a solution? Like, why are there homeless
Yeah.
people? I drive by a Sam's Club every day. Like,
Exactly, exactly.
All right.
Okay.
D5, Deborah's going to win.
Mhm.
That's better than the other person.
Mhm.
I swear to God, we better have a progressive majority,
Mhm.
or Deborah's going to be part of the problem.
Mhm.
D6. Dan
Um,
Strauss seems good.
Yes, versus former city council member Heidi Wills, disgraced.
What's
former
Dan,
city
Dan's background?
council
He's in LA too, right?
Yeah, he's a legislative aide for Councilmember Bagshaw.
Okay, so Mike O'Brien, right? Leaving council.
MOB.
Sad. We'll get to his voting record later. But who's more progressive, Mike O'Brien or Dan Strauss?
Okay, are we talking right now MOB or pre?
Right now.
Community.
I'm talking about right now.
Oh,
MLB.
People really like Strauss. Like, he seems
He's
like
a really he.
He's a good guy. I
But the
met him
thing is,
too.
like,
He's a
okay.
good
Yeah.
guy.
There's one thing to like understand the like abstract thoughts of like being an ally and blah blah blah, but to put that into action is I think what we always want white dudes to get to.
Right.
And I've seen Dan Strauss has personally done that for me, like in spaces where I was like.
Endorsement.
Oh,
All I'm saying is,
shit.
like-
a real ally spotted.
I think so. I mean,
okay. That's fair. That's fair.
That's
Mhm.
You
pretty
like
cool.
Dan?
I don't know. I haven't had that
Do you like
experience
Dan?
with him. That's cool.
I like him, and people that I really trust love him.
Okay, and you know
he's
what?
so smiley.
Yeah, he seems
Okay,
Okay,
really
that's
pleasant.
irrelevant to politics, but
How has he showed up for you?
like I was in a meeting that like the facilitator was really aggressive, like, and it was like me and my friend who's a black woman, and we were extremely uncomfortable. And he was in the first part of that training with us, and then he had to go to a meeting. And so I had gone up to go get water, and then he and I passed each other, and he's like, "Oh, how's it going?" And I was like, "Dude, like, it's not going well. Like, I don't feel good about this. Like, it's really tense in there." And he was like, "Oh." And then I went back in, and then he came back in. Like, he left his meeting to come and sit next to me to make sure that, like, I was good and that, like, my friend was good. And I never forgot that because I was, like, you know, like, one of my first times in a space like that.
This is when he was working for a council member.
Yes, this
Yeah.
is when he worked for Councilmember Bagshaw.
Right.
Um,
The takeaway from that is, okay, let's just say right now we're giving him the benefit of the doubt. He seems like a good ally. The history,
we'll see.
and he's anti-sweeps.
Well, actually doesn't say directly on his page if he's anti-sweeps. He essentially just lists like all these solutions that can work for homelessness, but he doesn't have a strategy of what he wants to do first, right? So all he's shown is that he knows the language of, you know, homelessness solutions, but doesn't really, he doesn't prioritize, he doesn't show an order of priority at all. Nor mentions we will stop sweeping people up, right?
Interesting.
So Dan on paper seems good.
Well, he seems good, but he could easily not take a course of action. He'll be easier to convince than Heidi.
That's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is. He's not Sean. He's not Shama. But I think he is not Heidi.
All right, Dan Strauss.
Word.
Dan Strauss, please.
Because he's not shitty, says good platitudes.
Will hopefully just be a continuation of the O'Brien regime.
It's the Seattle
The
liberal.
O'Brien regime.
It's the Seattle liberal we
The
hate
cutest
to love.
regime on the planet.
cutest regime.
Activist classes, vote for Dan. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Worked for Sally Bagshaw. No real promise on his website. But he's
Ask
a
him
nice
some
guy.
questions. You know, let us know.
All right. I love for him to respond to this episode published and say, actually, these are the things.
Yeah,
Great.
tell us if
And we'll retweet it.
if Dan Strauss tells us he's anti-sweeps, that would be dope.
Yeah.
And pro head tax.
And pro head tax,
Or-
like I definitely want to hear those out of him.
D7. Andrew Lewis, the stranger described them as someone who looks like they lost their virginity on a yacht. But someone that they endorsed. And not that we follow everything that the stranger says, especially now. But seems to be a better choice than Boogle. Seems to be a better choice than Pugle.
D7 is the least interesting race on the planet. And
Yeah.
We
like,
should try to spice it up.
literally, I forget it exists all the time.
I mean,
Queen
it's
Anne, right?
Milquetoast, Seattle.
Belltown,
it's like
downtown.
Magnolia to downtown.
Oh,
CID.
Magnolia.
It's just real.
Like
Magnolia.
D7 reps
Bay.
Magnolia Bridge, a.k.a. the bridge to hell.
Okay. Andrew Lewis, we endorse him wholeheartedly, and we think he's going to be a progressive, a force for progressive change.
No.
Yes. D7.
We support
Done.
Andrew.
For D7, I guess.
I think for districts 5 and 7, Andrew and Deborah, best case scenarios. If we're playing a game, if we're counting marbles,
Why would we do that?
Why the
if
fuck?
we are adding up the progressive votes when we're trying to get policy backed, they are the last ones we're counting on. A council with Herbold, Tammy, Shama, Sean, Deborah, Dan, and Andrew could really fuck some shit up for the wealthy elite.
And
it's-
would be
That sound like fucking
very,
Blue's Clues.
Like if
Yeah, you kind of did.
any amount of like
Reggaeton Blues
serious
Clues.
organizing could like move the council in very progressive ways.
Yeah.
They would still need like a good, but
They always will.
yeah.
That's what organizing
right,
is for.
but that
Yeah.
council, if elected, which there is a chance, there's a fighter's chance we could have that council come January.
With that being said, tell the people when they need to vote.
November 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Ballot
was
should
it
be
the
dropping
8th?
soon.
No, I checked today. Election day is the 6th.
Election day is the 6th, which is my brother's birthday. I know
That's
that.
how we'll remember it.
This is our inaugural first 2 episodes of Activist Class. We have focused on Seattle City Council elections because they're happening right now. Ballots are dropping soon. Voting ends November 6th.
Don't forget to use your democracy vouchers. You can get replacement vouchers as well.
Right.
Get online.
If you hurry the fuck up. If you are in District 3 though, you got to use real money
Yikes.
to support Shama Sawant.
Sorry.
If you want to see billionaires get taxed, if you want to see Zuckerberg cry some more in court, if you want to see homeless people stop getting swept, if you don't want to see a brand new state-of-the-art police headquarter bunker mansion being built on the north end,
Do you want to do something about our regressive ass taxes?
if you want more housing, affordable housing being built here, if you're pro-transit, if you're anti too many fucking cars in this city, if you're for black and brown people, if you're anti-displacement, am I missing anything?
Green New Deal.
Green New Deal.
Bang, bang.
Anyway, if you're for those things, we need a vote. We ain't gonna talk about hyper-local elections all the time. Probably not most of the time.
It's just right now, motherfuckers.
It's right now, and we need a vote.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, neoliberals.
How about you start your own damn pack? Everyone's got one. Like podcasts.